Brat summer, huh? Brat girl summer? I don't know what that means. Maybe I should ask my magic mirror about it. Magic mirror on the wall, who is the brattiest brat of them all?
It's obvious if you think about it.
I don't want to think.
I'll only tell you if you guess it correctly.
I'm too lazy. Just tell me, will you?
Then you never know who is the brattest brat of all.
Oh, fine. Is it Brat Simpson?
No?
Crayon Shin-chan?
No.
Molly Millions?
Nope.
Emperor Kuzco?
No.
Allison from the Breakfast Club? I give up.
I knew you would.
Give me a hint.
Think about comics.
Is it Crayon Shin-chan?
You said it already.
Is it Misa Misa?
No.
Is it Dororo?
No.
Is it Pinocchio?
No.
Tim 22?
Uh-uh.
Rainbow Dash?
No.
Mac from Paper Girls?
No. I will give you one more hint. Her boyfriend is a beast.
You mean...
She's into bestiality.
Oh, I know! Meg!
No, you fool. Alright, this is your last chance. Think of the, Australian outback.
Australian Outback?
In the 1980s.
Oh, I know! Jubilee? Has to be Jubilee.
It's Tank Girl, you idiot.
Tank Girl?
Tank Girl.
Oh, that's right, Tank Girl. How could I forget? Big Ears herself. That's right, Tank Girl. It's Looney Tunes, it's Mad Magazine, it's punk rock, all rolled up into one. That you can smoke, but probably shouldn't. By Jamie Hewlett and Alan Martin. Alright, Tank Girl, Book 1, created in 1988 by 2000 AD artists Brett Ewins and Steve Dillon. Steve Dillon you might know from Preacher. Deadline magazine featured a mix of comic strips and articles for adult readers. It was at the forefront of British comics anthologies for mature audiences. Ended in 1995. Yeah, this is a nice little collection by Titan Books. You can see all of the issues, and you can see there's an introduction here by Alan C. Martin, the writer of Tank Girl, and you can see some of the earliest versions of Tank Girl, and actually the very first sketch. She wasn't even a character yet. She was just a drawing, but she's already a brat. Issue 1, the kangaroos are going to go crash a barbecue in the Australian outback, but they are stopped by a crazy skydiving tank. All of these early issues are just fantastic. Issue number 2, Tank Girl's mission is to deliver a colostomy bag to the president before he drops his load. But will she get there in time? There's an amazing weapon here. You'll love this one. It enhances the size of the male testicles by 10,000%. And then he gets kind of scared. And it makes this really, really great sound. And she starts firing into the air. And I love this because it comes back later. It's not just a singular joke. It actually pays off when the airplane crashes. And then she says, "What exactly happened?" "Well, one minute we were flying along quite happy, and then all of a sudden the pilot's testicles grew really, really big." And then she starts laughing. About 10,000%. They were so big he couldn't reach the controls. Classic. So I love that because it just, it seems like this kind of one-off little joke, and then the fact that they bring it back around for the payoff. Also in this one, there's Tank Girl's birthday, which is fun. They're drinking this horrible beer called spunk beer, and they decide that they're going to go get some real beer from the mafia who's stealing all the real beer. And so they go on this mission. And I like this one because Sub Girl and Jet Girl come in. Here you can see Jet Girl, who actually Naomi Watts played Jet Girl in the terrible movie of Tank Girl. I know some people love that movie, but I think it's absolutely awful. It's fun, but it's a terrible movie. And Sub Girl down there in her submarine. Yuck, tastes like something I'm not allowed to mention in comics. Must be something better in the fridge. This is part 2 of The Australian Job, which is the Tank Girl birthday story. And I just want to read you the very first page here. It says, "A storm? No. 3 mini-tanks carrying 3 girls, 2,000 tons of stolen lager, a small Shakespearean mutant, a gay koala bear, and a squeaky toy rat. All on the run from the Australian mafia and the police? Yes!" And then they're just, of course, again, they're like dive bombing, skydiving. It's just amazing. These early issues are my absolute favorite. If you've never read Tank Girl before, I would recommend starting with the very early ones because they're just so much fun. This is book 2. This is after Tank Girl really started taking off, and in the underground comics world, she was getting really popular. Almost from the beginning, but it took just a little while, and then she was the most popular part of Deadline magazine. You can see Jamie Hewlett is already playing around with the like pop culture design. These amazing splash panels that just hypnotize you. And in this collection, there's a section where Tank Girl goes to visit her grandmother because she learns that her grandmother is not doing well. There's also some new characters introduced, such as Mrs. Shakespeare. "Shall I be putting this enormous, scrummy treacle pudding in the oven for later then, sir?" "Yes, please, Mrs. Shakespeare." Gotta love Mrs. Shakespeare. And then it starts to have some color pages. Some of these are not reprinted so well. There's Jamie Hewlett and Alan Martin up there. Some of these, they didn't have the originals anymore, and so they were forced to sort of scan the actual magazine and just make do with that. So some of the scans are a little funky. After Tank Girl goes to visit her dying grandma, they decide to take off on a road trip, and they pick up some hitchhikers in a World War II tank. And they set off to Stonehenge because there seems to be a fountain of youth connected to Stonehenge. I love these. The tank right there is done really well. It looks really cool. Let's see some of the other color ones there. It almost looks kind of like Zap Comics. Throwback to the 1960s. Some of the stuff I can't show. You can see Jamie Hewlett kind of paying tribute to his idols. Just amazing splash pages there. This story is called Blue Helmet, and they meet up with Jack Kerouac, of course, when they're on the road trip, and he's wearing a salad bowl on his head. You think he got killed by the axe here, but actually, no, it's a tomato. Must have got stuck in the bottom of the bowl. Also, Tank Girl's boyfriend, kangaroo named Booga, he's working at Haven't Got It In Records. I love that. It's a great name for a record shop. On to book 3. Book 3 begins with a bounty hunter competition, and the art by this time is just becoming amazing. Jamie Hewlett really just at the top of his game. The writing begins to fall off a little bit, in my opinion. It starts to become just kind of like anything they can think of, they just throw it in there. Which it was always that way, but this period of time is like everything is just completely bonkers. So the art stands up pretty well, but the stories are just... I mean, they're funny, but I guess I prefer a little bit of the earlier Tank Girl. But it's still worth a look. In the Bushman Tucker story, it says dedicated to the late Bill Hicks. Probably because of the chain-smoking jokes. Don't be a blithering tosspot, Booga. Nobody should give up smoking, and people who don't smoke should start. Smoking's by far the best sure route to wisdom and personal achievement. So they go in search of some culinary refinement in order to, wake up their taste buds, and then he thinks they should stop smoking so that they can become culinarily enlightened. This story is pretty fun. This is the one where they go to Switzerland. Tank Girl and Booga take a trip to Switzerland to visit Booga's father, and everything kind of goes wrong when he smells the really stinky egg fart, and then he becomes like this crazy werewolf creature. And then he escapes, and they have to like go chase him down. And that alone was like worth the price for me. Like this story is really, really funny and really bonkers. It kind of feels like the old Tank Girl a little bit. There is very little tank. In fact, I think there's no tank actually, but the humor is great, and the art, of course, is just absolutely incredible. And then this story, Jet Girl comes back, and she has a really badass motorcycle there, and she's building her own jet plane. This one's actually drawn by Glyn Dillon, who is Steve Dillon's younger brother. The art, again, is just great, but the story is kind of nonsensical. I can't say I really enjoyed the story that much. I mean, look at that. The art is just absolutely incredible. Jet Girl looks amazing. It's got the spliff hanging out of her mouth there. It's kind of funny up here. It says, words, huh? There was a time when words actually meant something to me. And I felt like, yeah, me too. I wish this script had been a little better. In the story Morning Glory, it begins with Subgirl dying in the back of Tank Girl's tank, which is a pretty exciting way to start, but sadly that story doesn't really go anywhere. But I like the fact that they keep using Jet Girl and Subgirl, because I think those are really cool characters. I actually kind of wish that he would have used them a little bit more. There's a lot of Booga. And, Booga's alright, but at the same time, I kind of wish that there was a little less Booga and a little more Subgirl and Jet Girl. In the back, there's a nice little dedication to Glyn Dillon by Jamie Hewlett. There's some interesting writing back here. This was when I think Jamie Hewlett was kind of having a little bit of a difficulty hanging on to his sanity, because the Tank Girl movie was beginning to take off, and everything was getting kind of out of control, and he wants to make sure that his friends know what they mean to him. And I think that was part of the stress from the Hollywood thing creeping in there. In the back here, there's a funny moment where Booga's got this grenade in his mouth, and then the guy punches him in the throat, and he swallows the grenade. And then Tank Girl comes in, and she kisses him, pulls the grenade out, and then spits it over to the enemies. This is just incredibly badass. Boom. And finally we come to Tank Girl the Odyssey. I don't have Tank Girl Apocalypse, and I don't have the cream of Tank Girl. I don't have Tank Girl Apocalypse because it actually wasn't even written by Alan Martin. And I think Jamie Hewlett didn't do much of the art for it, or anyway, it was kind of a totally different thing. The Cream of Tank Girl is just a collection of like miscellaneous stuff. This one is drawn by Jamie Hewlett, but it's actually written by Peter Milligan. And the writing is good. It's based on the Odyssey, or James Joyce's Ulysses, kind of both, I guess. The ancient Greek tale as well as the James Joyce adaptation. So you have Tank Girl and Booga's son that they built. His name is Telly. Of course, Telemachus, so they call him Telly. And Tank Girl herself is actually this... She's like become obese, and she's full of herself because she had the big Hollywood movie. And when she finds out that Booga's in trouble, like the story of the Odyssey. So she's Odysseus, and Booga would be Penelope. Tank Girl decides to change her ways, and she decides to get back on the tank. But sadly, she needs to go on a diet because she can't even fit in the tank. She may or may not become bulimic, but she goes on some kind of a diet, and then we see her as the good old tank girl of old. She jumps in her tank, and off she goes to rescue Telemachus and Booga. So there is a little bit of a tank, finally, again, after a few years of very little tank. And then, of course, the wonderful senseless violence, which we all love. A lot of the art in this one kind of reminded me of what Jamie Hewlett would do later with Gorillas. It doesn't really look like the tank girl of old, which is not a bad thing. His art style has changed a little bit. Still the incredible violence and bizarre situations. The Odyssey is not really my favorite tank girl, but at the same time it's really fun. It's very colorful. It has the spirit of the old tank girl. You can see Tank Girl's mom there, playing the role of Poseidon in the Isle of the Cyclops, which is like a crazy cult church, which is really fun. And finally, Tank Girl arrives back in the Hollywood mansion, where the slimy producer is trying to convince Booga to become a movie star, and she basically kicks out all the slimy producers and takes back what is rightfully hers. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. The thing that I want to say is that I really would recommend the earlier Tank Girl more so than the later Tank Girl. The Odyssey is good. 3 is kind of just, kind of going off the rails. 2 is fairly solid. 1, as bonkers as it is actually my favorite. It's really just nothing but jokes and ideas and crazy art. And I really would highly recommend, at least if you've never read Tank Girl, pick up number 1. It's bratty good fun. Tank Girl is a lot of weird, wacky, edgy fun. The pop culture references haven't held up that well, but the drug-fueled craziness and the bonkers storylines and just flat-out obscenity haven't aged a day. Here at the end of Brat Summer, it's worth remembering the brattiest brat of them all. Who's your favorite brat? In comics, in media in general, I'd like to hear from you. Thank you so much for watching.